to your lab for Health 320, there are two sections of this lab. So there is the Tuesday section, which you're all in, and there is also a Thursday section. Because of the holiday on Thursday this week, the Thursday lab is not meeting. So I am recording this session so I can then share it with the Thursday section so they get the same overview of the course that I'm giving to all of you and the instructions for the first lab. All right, so I'm going to get started with an overview of the lab component of the class. We talked in lecture about the lecture part of the class, so I just want to go over a few things with you for the lab portion. So I'm using one page for our lab and our lecture, and I hope that goes okay given that we have two sections of the lab, but we'll see if I created chaos by doing that. So I am on our homepage. To get to the labs for each week, there's links on the front, so you can access those modules for the lab as they get published. I typically try and publish the lab the week that that lab takes place, so they're not all open right now, but I will try and publish them at least a day or so before that lab, so you're able to take a look at those things in advance. This lab last quarter was taught in person for 3 hours for the regular 3-hour lab. The department decided to do it online for 2 hours synchronously on Zoom, and then the other hour is supposed to be lab time as well. There are resources and things that you should read that are really helpful before you come to your lab. So in the lab module, you'll see that there's kind of pre-lab resources that I highly recommend that you read and you go through. In the lab, one of the big goals of the lab is to learn how to use different types of technology to create health promotion programs and materials. And so you're going to be working in programs that you might have not worked in before. We'll talk about what exactly you're going to be working on, but I'm going to be giving you resources at the start of that lab with that module that will be really helpful in kind of learning the ins and outs of what it is that you'll be doing and how to use some of those different platforms and different technologies. So I'm going to quickly go over the course schedule for the lab. So this is a 10-week quarter. You'll see that we basically have nine weeks of planned labs, and then our last week is an open lab, and that is supposed to give you time to ask questions for your final website that you're going to submit. And any other questions that you have on the material. And if you need some time to work on that website, that gives you time to do that as well. So for the lab, we've got some stuff we're going to do today. But in general, the things that we're going to be doing include creating a website on WordPress. So next week, you're going to work on creating basically a plan for your website. You will be creating a blog. So in week 3, you're going to kind of outline that blog and do some prep work for your blog. And then in week 4, you're actually going to write that blog. In weeks 5 and 6, you're going to focus on preparing for giving a media interview. And in week 6, you're actually going to record and give a media interview with your group. As public health professionals, as you go on in your career, there might be a time when you get called on by your organization to give some sort of interview for a media source. And so I want to make sure you leave this class understanding how to prepare for that and being really efficient at that. So we'll do some media interviewing. You're also going to make a video for your website that you create. You're also going to create a podcast in this class. So in week 8, you're going to plan a podcast, and in week 9, you're going to actually record and edit that podcast with a program called Audacity. So that's kind of the things that you'll be working on. The labs are due at 11:59 on the day of the scheduled lab, unless there's other accommodations that have been made. But in general, the Tuesday lab is going to have their lab assignments due by 11:59 on Tuesday, and the Thursday lab will have assignments due by 11:59 on Thursday. You should be able to complete all of the lab work during your scheduled lab time. But if for some reason you need a little extra time, that due date of 11:59 gives you a little bit more time to get any last minute things done for your assignment if needed. But you should be able to get it all done during the scheduled lab time. All right, one other thing. I think I may have pointed this out during our lecture, but let's see. Here is a PDF. I just want to point out the points. So you've got weekly lab assignments that are worth various points. And then your final team website that you're going to submit at the end is worth 50 points. So just so you know how your lab points are made up. All right. In terms of all of those things we talked about, your how-to video, your podcast, your websites, you're going to be primarily working with a group. So you're going to work with your group that I've assigned in Canvas. You should be able to see your groups in Canvas by this point. And your group is going to pick a public health topic that you want to focus on for your website. It's really open to you and what your group is interested in, but I want you to pick something that is interesting to you and you'll enjoy working on throughout the quarter. And then all of the things that you do, all of the material you create, the website you set up, everything is going to be focused on addressing that specific public health issue. So again, it's really up to you on what you pick. You do need to decide as a team what exactly you're going to work on and come to an agreement. Any questions on how the lab is set up and the expectations for lab assignments? Okay. So the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go over our first lab. So this lab kind of meant to help you get to know the people in your group. It's also meant to help you kind of meet with your teammates and identify clear expectations for what your group expects this quarter. So you've got 2 assignments that you're going to complete for your lab today. You've got an elevator pitch, which we'll go over, and you have a team contract. So I'm going to start with the elevator pitch. So you're going to create an elevator pitch. This is an individual assignment, but it's something that you should create and share with your group in order to get to know each other a little bit more. Elevator pitches are actually really, really important beyond this class. You may go out and meet someone at a networking event or someone professionally through different ways. And someone might ask you, tell me about yourself. And you should always have an elevator pitch kind of prepared that is effective in communicating, what you're about, what you're good at to that person. And this can be really helpful as you graduate from Cal Poly and you're looking for jobs and you're doing informational interviews with people and they ask about you. So we're going to create one for this class. And the use for this class specifically is for your team website that you create. Every team website is going to have an About Us page where you've got a headshot and you've got an elevator pitch below your headshot. And so like a lot of websites you go to, it's got some sort of About Us page where it talks about the creators of that website and their qualifications and things like that. So you're going to create this elevator pitch again to help get to know the people in your group, but this is also going to be something that is going to be really helpful and something that you're going to use on your actual team website that you create this quarter. So your elevator pitch should not be long. In fact, it should be really short and your writing should be very concise and to the point. You don't want fluffy writing. You don't want extra words. You want an elevator pitch that's very, very direct. And so your elevator pitch should be no more than 5 to 6 sentences. If it's above that, it's too long. It needs to be a max of 6 sentences, but around 5 to 6 sentences is good. So you want to include these components. So the first one is, is the who. So describe who you are. You should share your name, your major, your concentration, your year in college, and something interesting about yourself. Keep it short. You want to keep it very clear and concise. And, something interesting about yourself. What is it that you want the listener to remember about you? Maybe there's something really interesting about you that you want that person to remember. The next thing you want to address is the what. So describe what you do and the type of person that you are. State your value phrase as a key result or impact. So you can think of it as a tagline. It should help communicate to the person that you're speaking to. It should help communicate kind of what value you add and what value you bring. So think about these questions that are listed here. Are you analytical? And do you enjoy math and statistics? Is that something that, that you're really good at and something that adds value? Are you really good at presentations and giving speeches? Are you an artistic person and you're really good at design and things that require artistic skills? Are you a really good writer? Are you a really good editor? Is that something that you're really good at? Or is finance and accounting your thing? Is that something you're really good at? So you want to think about a statement that tells your listener essentially how you add value. So you want to address one of these questions here, or if there's something else that's not on here, you can put something else as well. Okay. So the why is the describe why you are unique. So you want to include a statement that says, that helps communicate what about you is unique. What is it that you do that's different from other people? And that can be anything. It really is unique to you. And then number 4 should be a goal. There should be some sort of immediate goal that you have in mind for your career, for your professional development. And it should be really specific, right? So for example, you shouldn't say like, my goal is to go to graduate school. That's a really, really vague goal, right? But you can say that my goal is to enroll in and start a physical therapy program by the fall of 2023, right? That's a very specific and concrete goal, and it's something that's measurable in terms of whether or not you achieve that goal, and it's got a very specific time frame in there, and it's realistic, right? So something like that, that's really specific and easy to measure. There's a question in the chat. Should we list multiple things we are good, passionate about, or just focus on one? So again, this is supposed to be very clear and concise and direct to the point. If you're trying to keep it to 5 to 6 sentences, if you start listing off multiple things that you're good at, you're going to lose your listener, right? So it should be very clear. You want to pick the most important things that you want to communicate to your target audience. All right, any other questions on the elevator pitch? And again, this is an individual assignment, but something you should share with your group members before you leave today. Okay, and each assignment that you have for the lab, every assignment has a rubric. So please make sure that when you do submit your assignment that you read through that rubric and you understand exactly how you're going to be graded, and make sure that you're addressing all of the things in here. When I go through and grade, I use the same rubric for every single student, and I apply the same scoring matrix to every single person. So that is how I'm going to go through this and grade these, is I'm going to go through that rubric and assign grades according to that rubric. Okay. So let me see, I think there's another question. So another question, do you want the pitch in number format or paragraph? In paragraph format would be best, because keep in mind, it's going to go on your About Us section on your website. And so you're going to want that in a paragraph form. So it really should be submitted in a paragraph form. All right. I am going to go to the next. Okay. So your team contracts. Going to open this up. Okay. So this is the team contract that you're going to fill out. You're going to put your group number here and the date, and you're going to want to talk with your group about what health topic or condition that you're going to focus on this quarter for your project. And when you think about what the health condition is that you've chosen, think about what behavior change does your group want to support from the work that you do. So maybe your topic is breast cancer. What is the actual behavior that you want people to engage in as a result of the work that you produce? So maybe you want women to get a mammogram and get screening for breast cancer, right? That would be, kind of the behavior change piece of what you want people to actually do based on the work that you are completing this quarter. The next one is you want to think about your goals for your team. What are your goals this quarter? What do you want to accomplish as a group? Expectations. What do we expect of one another in regards to attendance, participation, frequency of communication, the quality of work, etc. This piece is really, really important. You're laying out the expectations of your group members. So, think about, how are you going to communicate with each other? Are you going to communicate via text, via email? What kind of response time do you expect from one another? If you have to complete work outside of our scheduled lab time, for example, the final team website, think about, is there a day and a time of the week in which you're all available to meet? It's really helpful if you lay those things out now in case you do have to meet outside of the scheduled lab time and you all can agree on a time that you are available. Think about participation. Are you expecting everyone to contribute equally? What does that look like, right? You want to have those discussions early on to make sure that everyone is on the same page in regards to the participation, quality of the work. So the more specific you are and the more detail you go into, the easier it's going to be and the better position you're going to put your group in for success this quarter. Policies and procedures. What rules can we agree on to help us meet our goals and expectations? So what are the rules that your group is going to set up and abide by? And I think another really, really important one is consequences, right? So how will you address non-performance in regard to these goals, expectations, policies, and procedures? So what are you going to do? What is your group going to do if you have someone or multiple people that are not following the expectations that you've laid out for your group, right? Someone maybe has stopped showing up to lab. Someone shows up to lab, but they're distracted and they're not contributing. What is it that your group is going to do to address the issue? So for example, maybe you might call a group meeting with that person and express your concerns to that person initially. And think about if that doesn't get fixed by that approach, what is the next step? Maybe your next step is to bring up the issue with the instructor, right? But you want to lay these things out so that everyone is on the same page and everyone understands if your expectations are not met, what are the consequences going to be that the group has decided. And so everyone should then type their name on the line here. And then once you finish doing that, you can upload your contract to Canvas, and that is your team contract. And that is something that you should abide by this quarter as you're working with your team members.